Well, Notre Dame got left out of the playoff, and they have opted out of a bowl game against BYU. So is Notre Dame just scared of the Cougars? Welcome in to Open for Business. I am John Kurtz. This is the best Big 12 podcast on planet Earth. Appreciate all of you guys for stopping by. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're a college football fan from wherever and you want the Big 12 perspective on the sport. Okay, Notre Dame got left out of the playoff. You know that. You saw my live show. If you have been around here just a couple of days ago, Notre Dame and BYU were the first two teams out. Notre Dame at 11, BYU at 12. As you can imagine, Notre Dame has not taken this quietly or well. Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bevacqua has been doing a round of interviews, particularly with the Dan Patrick Show. More on that in a moment. And look, I get why Notre Dame would be upset. Not just for the mere fact that they are left out, but for the fact that they were ahead of Miami until suddenly they are not. It's not new. 2014, TCU was third going into the final college football playoff rankings. They won by 52 that week and then were dropped to sixth. So welcome to the club, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But I can understand how you look at that and say, hey, we deserve better treatment than that. Our kids deserve better. I mean, Pete Bevacqua's stance has basically been like, we got the rug pulled out from under us. This was the way it was handled was poor. I mean, look, I don't think Notre Dame should have been in over Miami or Alabama, but I can see why you would say the process with this made-for-TV selection show is not a good thing in light of what happened here. I do get it, okay? I do. But then we find out this, okay? Before I even get to the opting out of a bowl game thing, how about this? We're supposed to feel really bad for Notre Dame. I will feel bad for the players. I will feel bad for the kids, for the fans and the entity itself. No. Here's Ross Dellenger from Yahoo, who says a newsy wrinkle from Bevacqua. As part of a memorandum of understanding signed last spring, Notre Dame is assured of a playoff berth if it is ranked in the top 12 starting next year. If this year's situation unfolds next year, the final at-large team would have gotten bumped out for number 11 Notre Dame. So what this means is Notre Dame, by virtue of not being in a conference and being as self-important as it is, was able to get into the legal agreement for the next iteration of the playoff that if they're in the top 12, they're guaranteed a spot, even if it's a situation where you have conference champions coming from outside the top 12, which would mean 11 or 12 would not get into the actual field. It would have prevented this exact scenario from happening. Notre Dame, you get so much special treatment already. Your best win was over a team barely in the top 20. You lost your two biggest games. The rest of the schedule is pretty soft. Go look at next year's Notre Dame schedule. Outside of like Miami, SMU, and USC, there is nothing. And we'll see about Miami, SMU, and USC next year. But it's not a murderer's row type of schedule. I have a hard time mustering up a lot of sympathy for the Fighting Irish when that is the case. Okay? And especially when the reaction is then this. Notre Dame decides not to play in a bowl game. That came out very quickly after the playoff selection show yesterday. And then we get this little tidbit of news that BYU fans will certainly be interested in. Notre Dame declined a bid to play BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, sources told On 3. That had been one of the matchups that was talked about quite a bit leading up into Selection Sunday, that this could be a game that happens. And look, I think for the sake of college football, this would have been a very fun game to happen. It is the two teams left out, right? How often would that work out? That the two teams that were closest to making the field get to go play each other. You can see where the storylines are there. Now, Brady Quinn, former Notre Dame quarterback who works at Fox, was taking a lot of shots at ESPN on-air talent like Matt Berry, who roundly criticized Notre Dame, and I think in most instances, rightfully so, for deciding to ditch the bowl game. But I do understand Brady Quinn's point when he says, we're supposed to go do this, which ESPN would just love, to be able to play up this storyline. We're going to help you when you just did this TV show and strung us along only to pull the rug out from under us. I am quite certain that that's a part of what's going on here from Notre Dame. But a lot of it, when I ask the question, hey, are they scared of BYU here? I know that Notre Dame as a program generally. And if they had a meaningful game, like a real playoff game against BYU, they would not say, hey, we are scared of this game. Okay. But I think a large part of this has to be that Notre Dame is worried about how many players are actually going to play in this game. Do you get the guys to play? I mean, Jeremiah Love, I'm sure, would not be playing in this game. So what does your team look like versus BYU would be extremely fired up to play this game. BYU would love to play this game. To get the opportunity to go up against the Golden Helmet, it definitely does mean something. And BYU, I think, in general, is a program that would have a higher retention rate for bowl games anyway. That's the culture of the place. It still seems like, even to the fan base, there's a lot more meaning into, making a bowl game and playing in it, especially now being in a conference, having conference affiliated bowls to go to instead of having to make it as an independent, and always getting stuck in a Las Vegas Bowl or whatever. Plenty of reason to believe like, hey, BYU is going to come in there fired up. They're going to be ready to roll. And our guys aren't really going to care. And we're not going to have that many players that want to play, or at least our best players are not going to want to play. So why would we go do that and hand a win over to BYU when we're just really upset about how this whole thing works? So I think even if you want to say, hey, John, that's a salacious title and Notre Dame's not actually scared of BYU. Well, they are. They are. I just don't think that it's fair to brand the overall program as being scared of BYU, but the team that Notre Dame would be throwing out there on the field against BYU, I do think that they're scared of playing that game. They don't want to be in that situation. And hey, I say that as a K-State grad, right? I understand what my alma mater just did here in the same situation. Scared about what they would have to throw out there if they were actually going to move forward and play a bowl game. K-State had to pay $500,000 for it. Notre Dame, with no conference affiliation, doesn't have to worry about that, so it is a little bit easier for them. But look, it's a bummer. I would love to see BYU go get that game. Hopefully, Georgia Tech will care quite a bit about the game and we'll get a really competitive Pop-Tarts Bowl, but, not always how it works in bowl games. Now, the crazier part of this for Notre Dame, and the part that I would really hone in on being critical of them for, is what Bevacqua said about the ACC. Okay? So on the Dan Patrick Show, this is Pete Sampson. He's the Notre Dame beat writer for The Athletic. Pete Bevacqua said the ACC did, quote, permanent damage to its relationship with Notre Dame, speaking on the Dan Patrick Show. And if you're asking, well, what is this about? What this is about is that the ACC went on a very aggressive campaign, certainly over social media, to plead Miami's case for the college football playoff. And in doing so, they specifically compared them to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame feels like basically singled them out and took shots at Notre Dame. Now, this is another one of those areas where, hey, I can get behind Notre Dame feeling bad for some of your players. I can understand that. I do not feel bad for you in this scenario at all. You are half into the ACC, and by that, you can tell me 24 sports. Okay, you're not in the one that matters for 90% of this pie. So you got a toe in the water in the ACC. You won't join in football. Miami is a full-fledged member of the conference, including in football, and Miami is also a flight risk. So it serves the ACC to do whatever it can to make sure that Miami is not going to leave anytime soon. Yeah, they're going to promote Miami held up against you, Notre Dame. Everybody was. That's the incentive for the ACC. And, oh, by the way, they were right. It worked. And this is the same league that had to deal with what happened to Florida State after Jordan Travis got hurt a couple of years ago and probably felt like it should have done more to campaign for FSU. There is reason that the ACC would have to be worried about what was going on and to go on this offensive. It is so self-righteous of Notre Dame to blame the ACC for that and say that permanent damage has been done. ACC's got a lot of problems. This just adds to that list. I know some Big 12 people might celebrate that, but look, I'm going to stick up for the ACC here. In Big 12 country, we've been saying the Big 12 should have done more for BYU recently, right? Well, the ACC was trying to do right by its full-fledged member who they know could leave and very well might leave. I'm going to have to tell Notre Dame to shove it on that complaint. Okay. So let me know what you think in the comments. Notre Dame scared of BYU. How do you feel about them attacking the ACC? Let me know what you think. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Link in description. And I will talk to you guys very soon.